Hello, welcome to Miniature Realms. My name's Stuart. A few weeks ago, Warlord Games kindly sent me some of the new plastic Gurkhas for bolt action, and I've recently picked up the Army Painter British WW2 set, so I thought it was about time that I did something with them both.
Miniature Realms is proudly sponsored by Counter-Attack Bases. They stock a wide range of counters, gaming aids and movement trays for multiple game systems and offer custom items to suit your club, your event or even your podcast or YouTube channel. Check out the link in the video description.
Warlord Games are very kind to me. They're always sending me the odd frames here or there, and along with those Gurkhas I've got some of the new plastic British artillery as well. I just haven't had time to show them off. I've got so much I'd like to show off on the channel, and I'd love to have time to make 4 or 5 videos a week, but it's just not happening at the moment. So I do try to get around to things as soon as I can, and these do look really exciting. I was away on holiday as well, which added to all of the delay. So I know these are now out. When I got them, that was before they were available to buy, and obviously I'm not helping Warlord Games market these very well. These I picked up myself. I've been looking forward to trying them for a while. I'm starting to use war paints an awful lot. Army Painter sent me a whole set of war paints ages ago, and I really like them, and I've started to use them those. But I did purchase these myself, and I think they're quite interesting. I've used an awful lot of historical colours over the years, mainly Vallejo, a lot of AK as well, but I was quite interested in these. I just hadn't got around to picking them up, and as we'll see in the video, I'm quite impressed with them, so I'll give you a little bit of a spoiler now. So there's a bit of an impromptu kind of review of this set along with this miniature at the same time. I didn't spend an awful lot of time choosing the miniature that I wanted. I decided to go for sort of a regular member of the troop rather than an officer or anything like that, so I could sort of paint the regular parts and show you what a regular guy would look like. I am going to be using Warlord Games' studio paint job as my colour reference. I appreciate there will no doubt be comments in this video saying this should be that colour or this should be that colour, etc, etc, but that's my reference point. I've not gone and researched it outside of that. Sometimes I do, this time I haven't. So he's built, he's primed black, and we're ready to go. Now, some of the colours in this set appear to be just rebranded from the regular range. I've got no doubt that the matte white is just the same matte white that they normally have. It's just got historical stamped on there, and it doesn't have the little descriptor as part of the flexible triads. The same with the rust. It's got a slightly different name. If you work for Army Painter or know that they're different, let me know. That red is very close, but I couldn't find this in the range that I've got of all the war paint reds, and this is a really good one. It seems to fit in the middle of 2 other paints and another flexible triad. So that red berry paint, I like the look of that. That's going to be a welcome addition to my colours. These earthy military colours are really good. They look good to the eye from the outside of the bottle. I can already excited about using them, and they definitely fill some of the gaps in the main range. So it's definitely worth having this sort of additional range of military colours that they've added. There's obviously loads of paints in the standard Army Painter range that can be used for military paints. You don't need a label on them, but a lot of the ones that I have, and I've got quite a lot, don't match the colours that I need, and this seems to start to fill those gaps. The majority of this miniature is going to be covered with these 2 colours. I'm going to be holding up all the paints to camera as I do it. Those of you who'd like to see them all in one go, I tend to take a picture of them and post it, or a series of pictures and post it on my Patreon, and they are available to free patrons, so you don't have to be a paid Patreon member to see those posts. But if you don't want to go anywhere near Patreon, you can just pause the video and make a note of them as I hold them up. Now, I'm applying this first layer with the airbrush over the black. You could absolutely do this by hand painting it on. I just like the smooth texture it gives me, and that a little bit of the black shows through underneath to aid the shadows. So this is the only airbrushing I will do. After that, I'm going to the wash. The military wash is kind of basically a green wash, and this is quite a departure from the way I paint these days. This is going back a fair few years, back to that standard base coat, wash, re-establish and highlight, and that's pretty much what I'm going to be doing with this painting video, because I'm trying to stick to just using this paint set as much as I possibly can. And you'll see a little bit later in the video I do cheat when it comes to the flesh, and I'll explain that a little bit more at the time, but the rest of it I'm trying to see whether I can paint this unit or other units as well in the future just using this paint set, because I know a lot of people will do that. They'll be picking up their miniatures for gaming purposes and they'll be thinking, I haven't got the right colours I need. Can I buy this British World War II set and will that be enough to paint my army? And this is what I'm trying to explore today, and what kind of quality effect it gives you afterwards. So I'm adding the same colours now to my wet palette so I can create a 50-50 mix in the middle. The webbing and the uniform colour in the studio paint job is practically the same colour. It's all part of the camouflage uniform. So I wanted to create a highlight and leave that top highlight for the webbing to make it stand out just a little touch. So, and it's also a little bit too bright probably to jump straight to that highlight for the purposes that I wanted today. So I'm starting with a 50-50 mix, just layering up those two. I've also gone in with that same base colour as well in places where the wash made it a little bit too dark. So like I've already mentioned, the base colour, wash, re-establish slightly in places that base colour, and now the 50-50 mix of those two colours, basic highlighting, and I am layering up in the old school way, looking at the detail of the miniature, looking at the folds in the clothing and doing neat lines where those folds are showing, the tops of those folds essentially, looking where the light would hit and slowly building it up, lifting it all and making it pop an awful lot more. You don't have to do that. You really could do a flat base coat and a wash and it will still look pretty cool if you pick out all the other bits. And that's the great thing about this sort of more straightforward style of painting that we've all done for years as wargamers. You can increase the complexity as you grow in confidence and in skill as a painter. So you can have just the basic wash, or you can do the highlights like I have mixed here. You can have even more of a spectrum, mixing those paints together in different ratios and really slowly build up those highlights until they're soft and subtle blends as well. It really is up to you. By this stage, I'm using just the pure top highlight on its own, that brightest green colour, and I'm focusing on the minimal amount of webbing that's showing. We've got the straps to go over the shoulders. They are very, very small and don't show much outside of the rest of the uniform. Then I'm focusing on the two chest pouches there, and there's a little bit of belt at the back as well. So I'm working on top of the colours that are already there. This makes this army, if you paint it in this style following the studio paint scheme, it makes it actually incredibly quick army to paint. If you're looking at forces that you can get on the table quickly, you really aren't departing much here from the base uniform colour. There's not a completely different set of colour for your webbing, which always takes time to paint in. You're working up with the same base colours. I'm just literally adding a slightly brighter highlight on those areas to make them stand out a little bit more. Another way of doing it might be to add a very subtle glaze of a slightly different shade to give it a different tint afterwards. But again, if you wanted to paint units like this, you really could turn out these miniatures very, very quickly. Now we're on to some rifle brown. I'm sticking to my rule here of trying to work directly from this box. My natural reaction at this stage is to go dark and work up. That's the way I like to paint, and I would have gone for a much darker brown and probably use that rifle brown as a mid-tone, but I'm going straight to that rifle brown and then using the brown wash, which you get in the box as well, to give it its shadow, to give it its tones. It doesn't go down as dark as I would quite like, but again, in terms of army painting, which I think is what most people will be picking up this box for, then I think this is perfect and works quite nicely. After that, I'm returning to that rifle brown again, so exactly what I did with the green, re-establishing that mid-tone, leaving all that wash in the recesses, just brightening it up a little bit, making sure that you're not completely repainting the whole thing, that you're leaving some of that darker tone there, and then I can move on to the next stage, which is mixing another colour in to brighten up that rifle brown. For that colour, I've opted for a flesh colour. There's not an awful lot in the set, so normally I would look for a different brown in a spectrum of browns. I don't always mix all of my own colours because it makes it much easier to repeat stuff if you've got colours straight out of the pot. But again, trying to stick to my rule of using this single set as much as possible, I could lighten that brown slightly by adding a little bit of flesh colour. But again, you don't have to do that. Just going the brown, wash, re-establishing with that brown would look absolutely fine, and you could do that. But this is where the single box does let me down a little bit, and maybe where I would question the colour choices for this set. I think the flesh colour, the single flesh colour included, when there's 24 paints in the set, is way too light. It's far too bright. And I know there's flesh washes in there, But as you've seen there, I've gone for 2 darker flesh colours from my existing wall paints range and decided to base coat with one of those and do my normal layering up. I am going to still use that bright flesh tone as the top highlight of the flesh, which I'll mix in a moment, but this is me not being able to be happy with just that single really bright flesh tone. There is a warm flesh shade in the box. I do use it after the base colour of flesh just to sort of fill in the gaps and tone it all down a little bit. However, I just think even with that it looks far too bright, and it doesn't cover very well as a very bright, almost white flesh tone. So I would probably mix that out or swap that out for a different flesh tone if you're looking to pick this set up. You maybe look for something as well, just a single addition to the box, and it will make a big difference. But once that darker flesh tone that I've added is down and the wash has been applied and dried, I'm going back in and re-establishing again, and then I'm going to be highlighting back up with the mid-tone and the flesh colour that comes in the box, mostly focusing on the cheeks and the nose and the chin and the top halves of the hands and things like that. I won't go into too much detail. I've done lots of videos on how I do skin. I probably push past some of the style of painting that I'm doing in the rest of this video, so I'd say buy yourself a different flesh paint, give it a wash, re-establish the highlight, fine as you go. I just think that the flesh colour they included in the box not only is a bit too bright, it really doesn't work for this subject matter. It's obviously meant as a very generalised set of paint. I'm painting Gurkhas here, and that really bright flesh colour doesn't work for their colour of skin. Now these are cracking colours, really like them. They definitely fill out some holes in the wall paints range that for the sets I've got them all yet. I've got a large chunk of them, but these are really nice browns, and I'm happy to add them to my set, and they seem like the simplest way to paint the hat that I went for. I decided to go for something slightly different colour to break up that green a little bit. So I don't know what this style of hat is called. Someone's going to put it in the comments, please. But I decided to go for this because it looks a little bit different. I did use the brown wash again after the base tone, and I'm going back to that re-establish and then highlight. And the really lighter colour, the tan colour, I'm using for that little bit of banding that's on the top of the hat as well. Just painting in over the detail a couple of neat sort of straight lines, and it seems to do the job. Now we're practically done now. I'm using some matte black. That's my open pot. I didn't open the pot with the historical bit stamped on it. If someone knows the different colours, do let me know. I couldn't see any difference looking at the bottles. I'm just painting in both the blade and also the gun as well. I don't want a nice shiny silver gun. I want it to look like blued steel. So I tend to use black matte, and I'm also using it on the boots as well, painting them in black. I'm not going to highlight those at all, because I'm going to do something else that cheats and makes that a little bit easier and saves lots of time if we're army painting, which I'll show you in a moment. For the metallics, for the weapons, I'm just using a soft artist pencil here. I think this is a 3B. You can go a lot softer. I couldn't find my 8B that's normally on my desk. I was just running that gently over the top of the edges of the gun there, and it just gives you enough of a shine, but not so much that it looks really shiny. And I usually use silver paint for this, but I've decided to give it a go on the blade as well, and it's absolutely perfect for that, as you can see. So a super easy way of doing metals. Is that little trick with the boots. I'm using a little bit of Vallejo dry pigment, and I use Vallejo for this rather than some of the other brands because this is very dusty and light, and I can just brush it gently over the boots and it doesn't really stick there too much. It just kind of goes into the crevices a little bit and makes them look dusty and dirty. By the time I've added mud to the base and added tufts to the base and things, you barely notice the feet, and any highlighting you do on them just never shows up. So this is a really nice, neat trick. It doesn't work if you're doing a nice shiny parade ground miniature for sure, but it works perfectly for wargaming miniatures like this. The amount of times I used to spend wasting time highlighting the fronts of boots only to cover them with mud and with tufts and things like that. And there he is, all finished. Very much a basic wargaming standard. Maybe a few highlights and some people might do on the main fatigues, but there's nothing groundbreaking there at all, but he's pretty cool, and it's a bit of a tested concept. If I was going to paint a small force of these, could I do it using this method, the old standard, in terms of me, because I've moved on a little bit in the way I paint, but the standard sort of base colour, wash, re-establish and highlight, and it works perfectly, and there's so much of what I do there is still there, the layering, highlighting, and the way I like to paint. Now I just usually, as I said a few times during the video, like to work from dark to light with a lot of those, so I'd miss out the wash stage can start with a much darker green and slowly build up. Usually the first couple of layers with the airbrush is where I make my time saving there. But I think it's pretty cool. I think it shows that the set is perfect in terms of allowing gamers to pick up a set like that and paint their armies. So if you're starting with bolt action or World War II miniatures and you don't think you've got quite the right colours, I think these are pretty good. There will be paints in there that you might not use all the time. Obviously, it's meant to do different fields for British military uniform in World War II. It's not all in the East. Some of it's Western Front, some of it's North Africa as well. I think it's all rolled into the same thing. I might be wrong there. Might be a separate North Africa set coming out now. But you get the idea that they're trying to do an awful lot with 20 paints there. I think it's pretty good. I think the only miss, as I said earlier, was the flesh choice. It feels a little bit too light and bright for my liking. I think something a little bit duller, maybe just one stage duller, might have been a little bit more of an all-round colour. They're relying on that flesh wash to do an awful lot of the heavy lifting there to tone down that bright flesh, and I don't think it quite nails it. However, buying one more flesh colour or two more flesh colours on top of this paint set and you're golden, really. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. It's always fun doing something slightly different with new paints, and I tried my best to stick to what was just in that set there, and really aside from using the pencil and dipping into some more flesh tones which were much needed for the skin tone that I was going after, I was able to do that. And it shows that you could buy those sets and do quite a good job of painting armies. So as far as I'm concerned, they're pretty good, as you'd have heard throughout the video. But let me know if you've already picked them up. If you picked up any of the other sets, I'm very tempted to pick a few of them up myself now, but let me know in the comments below. And if you have enjoyed the video, please give it a like as well and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. There's lots of other bolt action content on the channel. I tried to paint a wide range of things on the channel. Obviously the channel is dominated by Warhammer. The Old World is my favourite game, and it's just been so busy recently. So quite often games like this do get squeezed out a little bit, and not quite as many of you watch these videos as well. But I'm sticking to my guns. I'm fighting the algorithm, still putting out these videos from time to time. So those of you who I know enjoy them, hopefully you forgive me that, and hopefully you've enjoyed this video as well. If you've got any requests when it comes to bolt action, things you might like to see, do let me know. I can't always do it, but sometimes it may spark an idea. If you'd like to support me and the channel to help me be able to spend more time painting more things that maybe aren't just Warhammer the Old World, one of the better ways of doing that is to support me financially through Patreon or through memberships on YouTube. I very recently turned on memberships from YouTube. That's quite easy to do. You can join straight away using the button just below you. If you'd like to support me on my Patreon, that's probably the better way of doing it and gives me a little bit more support, and it's probably a better value for you as well. You can check out the link in the video description. There's multiple tiers there, including some painting tuition on the top two tiers, so do check those out. There's a Discord to join as well, which is free as well, even though there is a separate section for Patreon members. But all in all, thank you very much for watching. Take care, and I'll catch you soon.